The strange thing isn't what they said. The strange thing is that hours later, maybe days later, it's still echoing inside you. You replay the sentence while walking, while eating, while lying in bed staring at the ceiling. You change your response in your head again and again, imagining better words, sharper timing, stronger versions of yourself. And somewhere in that quiet loop, a question begins to whisper, why does a single moment have so much power over me? Why can't I let it go? What keeps your mind awake isn't the sentence itself, but the meaning you attach to it. Words are air. They vanish the moment they're spoken, yet something in you reaches out, grabs them, and gives them weight. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that the mind doesn't suffer because of events, but because of judgments. Two people can hear the same words and walk away unchanged, while a third carries them like a wound. The difference isn't strength or weakness. It's interpretation. Somewhere between what was said and what you felt, you decided it meant something about you. And once that meaning is accepted, the mind refuses to release it. Your thoughts keep circling because the mind believes there is unfinished business. It thinks there is a threat unresolved, a correction that must be made, an image that must be repaired. When someone speaks, especially with criticism, dismissal, or disrespect, the ego feels exposed. Not attacked physically, but challenged at its core. The mind then goes into defense mode, replaying the scene as if repetition might rewrite the past. But the past is already sealed. What's happening now is not problem-solving. It's resistance. You are arguing with something that no longer exists. Stoic philosophy asks a simple but unsettling question. What exactly is within your control right now? Not what they said, not what they meant, not how they see you. Only your response in this moment. And yet, the mind ignores this truth because it prefers the illusion of control over the discomfort of acceptance. By replaying their words, you feel active, engaged, involved. Letting go feels like losing. But in reality, clinging is what keeps you trapped. The thought repeats because you keep feeding it attention, like a fire that survives only because you keep adding wood. There is also another layer, quieter but more powerful. Often, what hurts isn't their words, but your agreement with them. If someone calls you careless, weak, or unimportant, it only lingers if part of you already suspects it might be true. The external voice awakens an internal one that was already waiting. This is why the mind replays the moment, not to understand them, but to argue with yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if something external disturbs you, the disturbance is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and that estimate can be revoked at any moment. But revoking it doesn't mean suppressing the thought or forcing positivity. Stoicism is not denial. It is clarity. It asks you to look directly at the thought and see it for what it is, an impression, not a fact. A sound that passed through the air, now living only because you continue to host it. The mind says, this matters. Stoicism replies, prove it. Does this thought help you act with wisdom? Does it improve your character? Does it guide you toward what is within your control? If not, it is noise, no matter how loud it feels. As the hours pass, the replay becomes familiar, almost comforting in its own way. Painful thoughts can feel safer than silence because silence demands presence, and presence reveals a truth the mind tries to avoid. You were never harmed in your essence. Your body is intact. Your ability to choose remains untouched. Your character is still yours to shape. Epictetus reminded his students that no one can harm you without your cooperation. The mind resists this idea because it removes the villain. If no one harmed you, then no one needs to be defeated. There is only something to be understood. Understanding begins when you stop asking, why did they say that? And start asking, why am I holding on to it? This shifts power back to where it belongs. You realize the thought is not demanding your attention, you are offering it. The moment you see this clearly, a gap appears. In that gap, there is choice. You can continue the loop, or you can step out of it. Not by force, but by withdrawal. Like closing your hand and letting sand fall through your fingers. The Stoics practiced this withdrawal daily. They trained themselves to notice impressions the moment they appeared, before they hardened into beliefs. They knew that peace doesn't come from controlling the world, but from governing the mind. When a thought arises about what someone said, you can acknowledge it without following it. You can say, this is a memory, not a command. You don't need to answer it. You don't need to correct it. You don't need to win. The need to respond is often just the ego asking to be reassured. As the thought loses its grip, something surprising happens. Space opens up. Not emptiness, but stillness. And in that stillness, you realize that your worth was never located in someone else's words. It was always anchored in how you live, how you act, how you choose. Alan Watts once spoke about the mind's tendency to confuse symbols with reality. Words are symbols. Opinions are symbols. They point, but they are not the thing itself. When you stop mistaking them for reality, they lose their authority. In the end, the question isn't why you can't stop thinking about what they said. The question is whether you still want to. Because letting go doesn't require time. It requires insight. The insight that your peace is more valuable than being right, that your attention is finite and sacred, that every moment spent replaying the past is a moment not lived in the present. And the present is the only place where virtue, freedom, and calm can exist. So when the thought returns, as it sometimes will, don't fight it and don't indulge it. Observe it. Let it pass like a sound in the distance. Remember that you are not here to react endlessly, but to live deliberately, and in choosing not to carry what was never yours to begin with. You practice the quiet strength. The Stoics spoke of the strength of a mind that knows what to release and what to keep.